Mr. Chancellor, it's my pleasure to present to you Mr. John Wood, a living example of McGill's motto, Grandescent Octa Labore, and that is, by work, all things increase and grow. Mr. Wood is an accomplished and inspiring philanthropist who created the award-winning non-for-profit organization Room to Read. Through this organization, he has impacted millions of students globally. Over $300 million has been raised to help provide increased access to high-quality education opportunities. Room to Read has established over 1,750 schools, 16,000 libraries, and has distributed 13 million books in over 10 developing countries. Throughout this, he has succeeded in providing millions of young children the lifelong gift of education and literacy. John Wood teaches at New York University and the Harvard Graduate School of Education, and he's the author of the book Leaving Microsoft to Change the World, which highlights his personal experience, where he chose to walk away from Microsoft at the height of his corporate career to dedicate his life to helping others, and especially children. He's a renowned speaker who serves as an inspiration to audiences, teaching them to think differently and more boldly about what they can accomplish as true leaders in the future. Mr. Chancellor, it's my privilege to present to you Mr. John Wood, that you may confer upon him the degree of Doctor of Letters, honoris causa.
Would you go back to your seat?
Oh, okay.
Don't go too far away. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to invite Dr. John Wood to deliver the convocation address. Dr. Wood.
Okay, so I was a little bit eager there to come up here. Chancellor Steinberg, Principal Fortier, Chancellor Emeritus Richard Pound, distinguished guests, and all graduating students, thank you for this honor. I promise to always be worthy of it, and I promise to always be part of the McGill community. In the last couple of days, and indeed the last couple of years of building out Room to Read around the world, I've felt not only like an honorary degree recipient, I've felt quite a bit like an honorary Canadian as we built out our fundraising presence across Canada, major cities, small towns everywhere that become part of Room to Read. I want to start with just a simple salute that maybe you could join in. If anybody here is a parent or a grandparent or a member of a family who's been part of the support structure of these graduating students, please raise your hand and let us acknowledge you, because without our families, we can't do this. I so remember how important my own parents were to my education. My grandmother, who read books with me when I was 5, 6, 7 years old. My parents, who encouraged me every week to put money away to save for university. My mother, who helped me with my homework, and my father, who helped me with my math. Without our families, we couldn't do what we do, so they deserve special recognition. I also wish to apologize to all of you today who have gotten a PhD degree and you've done it the hard way. I apologize that I have taken the easy way out. I have not had to write a thesis. I've had to write only a very short speech. And to the graduating students, I am the last thing standing between you and your degree. And that is not an enviable place to be. There's a saying in Africa, where Room to Read does much work, that the most dangerous place to be in Africa is between a hippopotamus and its water supply. You don't want to get onto that path. So I will try to keep my remarks fairly brief, since all of you are excited to be getting your degrees. As we all know, education is at its best when you can feel the energy and feel the hope and feel the optimism and feel the brighter future that comes with the power and indeed the lifelong gift of education. You can feel it when you see a very active school library with first and second graders connecting with books. You can feel it when you have a reasoned, respectful academic debate. You can feel it when you have world-class researchers trying to battle cancer. And you can indeed feel it here in this room today, the energy and the optimism that comes with education. Contrary to that, we know that education is at its worst when it's failing or when it is completely lacking. When the presence and the success of education is perhaps the most hopeful thing in the world, the lack of education for the poorest of the poor is perhaps the most depressing systemic failure we face in the world today. We know that nobody is hit harder by lack of education than the poorest of the poor. Not just resource poor, but many times opportunity poor. If you're born here in Canada, or if you're born in the United States where I was born, or Switzerland, or the United Kingdom, or Australia, you're amongst the luckiest people on earth because you're guaranteed by your government that you will have a complete education. It may not be a perfect education, there may be some things that are wrong here and there, but we are amongst the luckiest people on earth to be born where we are born. But what if your reality is that you're a girl born into rural Nigeria and kidnapped by warlords? What if your reality is that you're a child born in post-Civil War Sri Lanka or post-Khmer Rouge Cambodia and you do not have a chance to gain an education? This is nothing more than planned poverty. We know that 1 billion people in the world today live on less than $1 a day. We know that 2 billion people live on less than $2 a day. And think about having nothing more than a loonie or a tui in your pocket. And that is all you have for the day to get everything you need, from food to shelter to medicine to education for your kids. We know that there is nothing more arbitrary and random in life than where we are born and to whom we are born. If you're born to educated parents in Canada, you've won that lottery of life. If you're born to illiterate parents somewhere in the developing world, you've lost that lottery of life and are subjected to a lifetime of poverty because you've not learned to read from a young age. Today in the world, 200 million young people woke up in the developing world and did not go to school. I'll throw that number out again, 200 million. In today's world, 780 million people remain illiterate. 2/3 of those who are illiterate in the world today are girls and women. And this is one of the biggest failures of the world today, of lack of education for girls and women. Looking around this stage, looking around this audience, we know that when the world is full of a generation of educated, butt-kicking women, that's when things change, right? I know that because my mother is an educated, butt-kicking woman, and she really completely keeps me in line still to this day at age 85, telling me what books I should be reading. But I want to tell you just 2 short stories of why my life changed. Number 1 was in rural Cambodia. In 1994, I was on the back of a motorbike. The Khmer Rouge were still in the jungle. The Cambodian government was trying to rebuild after a Holocaust that killed over 1.3 million citizens. And I saw a burned out building. And I said to my motorcycle driver, "What is that building?" And he said, "That was our school. It was burned down by the Khmer Rouge. The Khmer Rouge killed the teachers, burned the books, and burned the building down because they were against education." I said, "How long ago did that happen?" He said, 10 years ago. And I said, "Why has the school not been rebuilt?" And he just gave me a forlorn look and he said, "A lot of people tell us that they will come back and help us, but we never see those people again." Please, to all of us here, let's not be those people who see tragedy and see lack of opportunity, but yet they never hear from us again. Let's be the people who go back and help to build opportunities for those who have lost the lottery of life. In Nepal, in 1998, I met a headmaster while trekking the Annapurna circuit, and he had 450 students showing up every single day, but his library was completely lacking in books. They had no children's books in the library. And I asked the headmaster why, and he said, "Well, in Nepal, we are too poor to afford education. Yet, until we have education, we will always remain poor." And that struck me as the cruelest irony, that rather than being born in Connecticut to a middle-class educated family, I could have been born in the middle of the mountains in western Nepal and not gained literacy and not had books from a young age. Well, I vowed on that day to change, the world through the power of education. And I'm very proud of the team that we've built, and I accept this degree on behalf of our amazing team that has refused to slow down and refused to be complacent. And we've now reached over 8.5 million children across the developing world with access to literacy classes, with access to libraries, with access to better schools. And of equal importance, equal access for the girl child. I talk a lot about the importance of educating girls. I want to be very clear, I'm not anti-boy. As a former boy myself, I would never want to be accused of being anti-boy. We have to make sure we reach every girl and every boy across the world wherever there's lack of resources. It can be here in Canada, it can be across sub-Saharan Africa, it can be anywhere, but if we see lack of education, we have to help people as much as possible. The two-time Pulitzer Prize-winning New York Times writer Nicholas Kristof, who's also the co-author with his wife Cheryl Wu Dunn of the book Half the Sky, wrote about Rimderid's work in the New York Times last week. And with reference to the Nigerian warlords, he said, poverty holds more children hostage worldwide than any group of warlords ever could. That's the bad news. The good news is we can act on that, we should act on that, we will act on that, because those forces of darkness who tell children they're not going to get educated, it could be warlords, it could be the Taliban, it could simply be indifference. Those forces must be attacked. And we must say to all of them, in the long run, you will lose and we will win, because civil society has to win. An integrated, peaceful, stable world has to win. More of the world, ideally, will one day look like Canada, where education is guaranteed to every single student. And what is the biggest hope for the world? It's when families come into a country and they say, we've arrived, we're lucky, now we're going to challenge our children to learn, 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 and be the generation that helps to keep the family moving up. In conclusion, I just want to thank all of you for this incredible award. I'm very, very proud to receive it. I also realize that what I've done so far, what my team has done so far, is simply the tip of the iceberg. There is a long, long, long road ahead. Thankfully, like many of you, we have energy, we have vision, we have purpose. And let me say right here that I hope that as we enter the next couple of decades of our life at Room to Read, we can do something even bigger. And I invite all of you to join in with this in any way you can. And that is simple. We wish to reverse the notion that any child ever again can be told, you were born in the wrong time, at the wrong time, in the wrong place, to the wrong family, and you therefore will not get educated. We believe that idea belongs in the trash can of human history, on the ash heap of human history. We must tell every child everywhere in the world, you were born in the right place at the right time, because those of us who've gotten a world-class education are ready, willing, and able to pay it forward. Let's think big, let's pay it forward, and let's create a world that looks much like this room, educated, optimistic, and ready to go do great things for the world. Congratulations to the graduates and their families. Thank you to McGill. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.